episode 50 of the Be Greyt podcast. Today we got a one-round mock draft. Obviously, free agency's been buzzing in the NFL, and I felt that today's a good day for a mock. Obviously, it's episode 50. Honestly, when I started, didn't think I'd get to 50, but that's okay because here we are, and I'm happy that I'm here. We're going to get into the one-round mock. By the way, for anyone who watched episode 49, did you like the music at the beginning? Your boy is getting fancy. I know, your boy is getting sophisticated. Anywho, we'll just get right into this. Free agency will play a little bit of a part in these picks, obviously. Obviously, free agency isn't over, so this no one-round mock is accurate. But I'm going to try and be as accurate as I can. These will be what I think the teams will do, not what I would do. I think that's the way I'm going to go about this, because that's kind of the way I like to go about it. So that's what we're going to do. So obviously, first up, the Tennessee Titans. So it's pretty much Cam Ward or Abdul Carter at this point. It's just a matter of, do they want the QB or do they want the edge rusher? Here's my thing. This would be the pick I would make if I were them, and this is a pick I think they're going to make. I would pick Abdul Carter. I simply think Abdul Carter is an elite talent, and I think that when you have the opportunity to get an elite talent, you get that elite talent. Cam Ward is not an elite talent. He makes too many mental errors in games, and quite simply, if he was in the quarterback class last year, he wouldn't have been quarterback 1. He wouldn't have been quarterback 2. He might have been quarterback 3, but probably more like quarterback 4. That's the reality. So I would not use my number 1 overall pick to draft Cam Ward. As much as I think that quarterback's an important position, I would just run with Will Levis for another year. Why not? All right, we know Will Levis isn't going to be the future, but so just be bad again and get a quarterback next year where the quarterback class is expected to be significantly better. So I'm going with Abdul Carter for the Tennessee Titans. The Browns, I think it's Cam Ward, plain and simple. I think Cam Ward's going to be a Brown, unless the Giants trade up to 1, which I don't like that decision by them personally. Obviously, the Browns, they traded for Kenny Pickett, but if the Browns, they have Kenny Pickett, they have Deshaun Watson, but I still think they need that young QB. They know Deshaun's not the answer. I'm sure they know that even though they traded for Kenny's not the future, obviously. So I think they're going to look towards the future with this pick, towards quarterback, and that's Cam Ward. The Giants are an interesting one. So there's a lot going on with Aaron Rodgers right now. It's between the Steelers and the Giants for Aaron Rodgers. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to Pittsburgh. That's what I think. And I think the Giants will end up with Russell Wilson. And I think that means – I don't think that means that they're out on quarterback for the draft. Okay? Because I think they're picking Shedeur Sanders. That's my opinion. I have thought this for a while. I continue to think it. Just because you get a Russell Wilson does not mean you therefore don't pick a quarterback. I mean, Russell Wilson was roaming with the dinosaurs. He's very old, okay? He's practically a fossil. And as a Steelers fan, trust me, I know this to be true. And so I think you get a young guy who can, in Shedeur, who could do some good just sitting for a year behind a guy like Russ, and then you can start Shedeur next year. Or if Russ is super bad, or you can have Shedeur start halfway through the season this year, whatever. But that's my opinion on what the Giants should do, and that's what I think they're going to end up doing. Shedeur Sanders feels like a New York type of quarterback, does he not? He just feels that way to me. The New England Patriots, oh man, what will the New England Patriots do? You know what I should have up with me right now as I do this? And I'll actually pull it up right now. Let's see, 2025 free agent Tracker, maybe? I'm trying to remember who the Patriots have signed. Let's see. Can I go? I know they signed a running back. Who was it again? I'm drawing a blank. Mac. Okay, no, it wasn't Matt Collins that I was thinking about. It was somebody else. Am I going crazy that they didn't? Oh, I remember. It wasn't a wide receiver. It was a corner. Carlton Davis. That's who they signed. That's who I was trying to think of. So they signed Carlton Davis. So that honestly kind of makes you think maybe they're not going Travis Hunter at 4 because unless they see him as primarily a wide receiver, which is a possibility, but they don't seem like a team now that needs a guy who can play both because they have Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis. So and what I've noticed with the Patriots is they haven't really gotten any offensive linemen of value, and you need to protect Drake May, your young quarterback. So it makes me think. I think the Patriots are going to go Will Campbell 4 overall. I think Will Campbell is a tremendous player. He can possibly play tackle. I've heard a lot of people say if he can't play tackle, he'll at least be a really good guard. And at the end of the day, Patriots need multiple pieces on that offensive line. And then the Jacksonville Jaguars will be licking their chops and feeling good as they simply go Travis Hunter. They obviously traded away Christian Kirk. They signed De'Ami Brown, but Travis Hunter can be a weapon for Trevor Lawrence. Plus, he can play corner opposite side Tyson Campbell. And I think that would be a nice, solid fit for Travis Hunter, although I'm sure he'll be traded by the Jaguars in a few years when he demands a trade because they still suck. So, yeah. The Las Vegas Raiders. Oh, boy. There's a few things you can go here, right? There's a few things you can go here. So let's see. What have the Raiders done in free agency? I know where I think I'm going to go here. Let's see. Now I can go by team. This is better. Where's Las Vegas? Okay. So they traded for Geno, right? Obviously. So that is figured out. They signed Jeremy Chin. That's notable. Malcolm Kuntz was a re-sign. Max Crosby, obviously, they gave a massive new contract. So really, the only signing of value was Jeremy Chin, a safety. They still need a wide receiver. They could use a corner. They could use a running back. And I think at the end of the day, I think that's where they go. I think they go running back here. And I think they go Ashton Genty. I just don't see. I am at the point where I don't think a wide receiver is going top 10 unless you count Travis Hunter as that. I don't think Ted McMillan or Matthew Golden or Luther Burden or Emeka Egbuka are going top 10. So I think this pick will be Ashton Genty to the Raiders. The New York Jets, huh? The team who got Justin Fields, 2 years, $40 million. Seems like a little bit much, but it's not terrible. They brought in Brandon Stevens, a corner. They obviously released Aaron Rodgers, released Devontae Adams, brought in Andre Sisco. Haven't really done a lot. To me, you can go and put this guy right next to Quinnen Williams on that defensive line. He's an elite player. He absolutely showed out against Ohio State. That was I watched that game in its entirety. It was he played fantastic. And I think this is a Mason Graham spot. They could really use more on that defensive interior, a young guy to pair with Quinnen, and I think Mason Graham is the correct pick here for the New York Jets. The Carolina Panthers. I've seen their name pop up quite a bit in free agency. Obviously, they were going to get Milton Williams until the Patriots came in and ended that and outspent them, I guess, if that's how you want to say it. But they signed Trevon Moehrig, a little bit of an overpay, in my opinion, the safety. They extended J.C. Horn to a crazy contract for a guy who's constantly injured. Um, they signed Tershawn Wharton, again, overpay because they weren't able to get Milton. So I don't think they get anyone on that defensive interior. They could get an edge rusher. They signed Patrick Jones the second, but he's mid. They released Miles Sanders today. I think they go edge. That's what I think they go because there's still a ton of edge rushers available here. It's just a matter of which one. And I think it's between Shamar Stewart, Jalen Walker, and James Pierce Jr. And at the end of the day, I think Carolina is the type of team right now who they need to go for, who they think is the best player in whatever position they want to go for, and not worry about any sort of off the field personality things. And with that being said, I think they're going to go James Pierce Jr. at 8. I think he looked amazing at the combine. His production is there. Do I think he's the best edge rusher? Maybe. I love Jalen Walker as an edge rusher, but then again, I'm a biased Georgia fan, so take my word for it with a grain of salt, I guess. But I think James Pierce Jr. is right up there with him. And also, Jalen Walker is more than just an edge rusher. He's more of he's an outside linebacker. That's really what he is. But the New York Saints. What am I saying? The New Orleans Saints. Goodness. Now, New Orleans Saints, a team who clearly cannot handle their cap very well. All they've done, they released Jamal Williams, traded for Devon Godshaw from the Patriots, interior defensive lineman. And then they just literally re-signed Juwan Johnson like an hour ago, tight end. And then they re-signed Chase Young, an edge rusher. So I guess, oh man, does that mean they won't go edge? Because they re-signed him for 3 years. They won't go tight end. They re-signed Juwan Johnson for 3 years. So could it be Tetero McMillan? That's something that I literally just thought of right now, and I don't hate it. I don't hate a Tetero McMillan here. They could still go edge because they have Chase Young and really what else? And Chase Young is mid at best. But you know what? For the sake of doing something kind of different here, I'll go Tetero McMillan for the New Orleans. I was about to say the New York Saints again. The New Orleans Saints. I'll go Tetero McMillan. The Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears is, I think, one of the teams that I've been very impressed with what they've done in free agency thus far. I think they've been one of the better teams in free agency because the Chicago Bears are a team who understood their deficiencies and have aggressively gone out to try and fix those deficiencies. Right? They traded for a guard because what are their deficiencies? Offensive line, the entirety of it, and edge rusher. So what do? They signed Dayo Odeyigbo, an edge rusher. They signed Jonah Jackson, a guard, Joe Thuney, a guard, Drew Dahlman, a center. So that interior of the offensive line, significantly better already. They get Dayo Odeyigbo, which will help. And they also brought in Grady Jarrett, a defensive tackle from the Falcons. They also signed Durham Smythe 1 year he'll be a backup tight end to Cole Kmet. So what do we need? So they could still go tackle, possibly. Would they still go edge? I don't know about that. I will say, if Ashton Jeanty was still here, I would love that. Ashton Jeanty would thrive with this new Bears offensive line. He really would. But my question is, I think this is because Omarion Hampton will be the second running back to go. But I feel like there's certainly no way 2 running backs go in the top 10. Right? Like, there's certainly no way. Could they go tackle? Who would they go? Armand Membu could definitely be a choice. Kelvin Banks could definitely be a choice. I don't think they'll go interior based off what they've done. Wide receiver is always an option, but I don't think so. Interior defensive line, no. To me, it's between Amari and Hampton and Armand Membu, and I think they'll just go Armand Membu. Why not bring a youngster into that offensive line as well to give you not just make your offensive line better, but also to give it depth. So I'll go Armand Membu for the Bears. The 49ers. Oh, man, they've lost a ton. The San Francisco 49ers. Where are you? So they released Javon Hargrave. They released Malik Collins. They released Leonard Floyd today. They released Kyle Juszczyk. They signed Luke Farrell, I guess a backup tight end to George Kittle to a 3-year deal. They traded away Deebo Samuel to the Commanders. They did sign Patrick Taylor Jr., a running back, to a 1-year deal, and a safety in Richie Grant to a 1-year deal. That's really all they've done. I have been picking this to the 49ers for a while now, and I continue to think that this is the right spot, especially because they lost Charvarius Ward to the Colts in free agency. I think it's Will Johnson. I just, for some reason, there are some picks to me every year where it's just like, I just can't see this person anywhere else than with this team. And that's how I feel with Will Johnson and the 49ers. That's just how I feel about it. And there's another duo that I can't get away from either, which we'll get to here shortly. The Dallas Cowboys, could they draft Amari and Hampton? Sure, they could, and they've done they do what they've done every single year, which is absolutely nothing in free agency. Where are they? So they re-signed Osa because the Cowboys typically do a lot of re-signing. They like to keep their own guys. They typically don't sign a ton, and if they do, it's very low money. I mean, they signed a running back, Javonte Williams, to a 1-year, $3 million deal. He could be the starter, but I think he's more of a backup. They signed guard Robert Jones, 1 year. Solomon Thomas, interior defensive guy, 2 years, $8 million. So not really much. So what could they go? Wide receiver, obviously an option with a Matthew Golden. Running back, Amari Hampton, maybe. I just don't feel like Jerry and them will do that. With all the talk around Micah Parsons, right? Would they go edge rusher? That's my question. I feel like it might be too early to go defensive tackle, like a Kenneth Grant, a Walter Nolan, right? I think it's too early. But edge rusher, I think is definitely possible. You have Jalen Walker sitting here. I mean, Shamar Stewart to me kind of feels like a cowboy type of player in a way. So does Jalen Walker in a way, but I think for this pick, I think I'm going to go Shamar Stewart, edge rusher out of Texas A&M. I don't think he's better than Jalen Walker, but I feel like he's going to go before Jalen. The Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins. Let's see. So they signed quarterback Zach Wilson. They released Raheem Mostert. They don't need a running back, though. They haven't done much, really. They signed James Daniels, a guard, 3 years, $24 million. So that's good. They need an offensive tackle. Bad. Kelvin Banks and Josh Simmons. Now, Kelvin Banks, similar to Will Campbell, similar to Armand Membu, they'll try to play him at tackle, but he might just end up being a guard. And the Dolphins could probably use another guard as well. So it could be Kelvin Banks here, maybe a Josh Simmons. They need safety. Would they go Malachi Starks at 13? I don't know, because it feels like Malachi Starks has fallen a little bit, and there is a team that I'm probably going to have him go to where I think it just makes sense. But Nick Emanwari is someone who has skyrocketed up draft boards. A lot of people think he's now going to go before Malachi because he's one of those freakazoid athletes. Would the Dolphins though? Because I've heard a lot of people say I don't think Nick Emanwari should be going top 15, but a lot of people think he will end up going top 15. Simply due to what he did at the combine. Oh man. So it's between Kelvin Banks for me and Nick Emanwari. I think I'm gonna go Kelvin Banks here. That just feels like it makes more sense to me. You need to protect Tua with all his history. And then this is another one. I think everyone's picking this, and I'm gonna continue to pick it until it doesn't seem like just the perfect thing ever. I don't know, that wasn't even the correct sentence, but that's okay. I'm going Tyler Warren, tight end, to the Colts. It's pretty much what everyone's doing, and it just makes a ton of sense because the Colts need a tight end, and he's the best tight end on the board by a lot, in my opinion. The Atlanta Falcons. Oh, boy. They've only made one signing, and it's Divine Diablo, a linebacker. Woo. They released Grady Jarrett, obviously, so interior of that defensive line's a possibility. Edge rusher is always a possibility. Oh, man. A popular pick for me has been Jalen Walker to the Falcons, although I know it's a thing that, like, oh, the Falcons don't draft edge rushers. I think Kenneth Grant could low-key be a possibility. But I'm going to go Jalen Walker because I think Jalen Walker is the best kind of player available at this point, and I think he brings what the Falcons need, and that's pass rush. So I'm going Jalen Walker to the Falcons. The Arizona Cardinals. I've had Walter Nolan go to them a ton, but I don't think that's going to be the pick here. So they signed Josh Sweat, so I don't think they go edge. They also re-signed Baron Browning. They re-signed Zay Jones. They signed linebacker Akeem Davis Gaither. So to me, this screams interior defensive line, maybe wide receiver, maybe tackle. They could go Josh Simmons. I wouldn't hate that. But to me, it screams, it screams interior defensive line. And I think I'm going to go Kenneth Grant. I think that's where this is going to lead me. I think Kenneth Grant is going to go before Walter Nolan at this point. So I'm going to go Kenneth Grant to the Arizona Cardinals. The Bengals. This is the spot where I think Mykel Williams just makes sense, and I don't think enough people are talking about it. Obviously, the Bengals defense was terrible last year. They need help on that side of the ball. As far as what they've done in free agency, they signed defensive tackle B.J. Hill. They signed linebacker Oren Burks. They signed defensive tackle T.J. Slayton. They haven't really done – a lot of it has been re-signs. Like they re-signed, as far as defense, Joseph Asai, Marco Wilson. So I think they need something. And if they do trade Trey Hendrickson, then edge obviously becomes an obvious choice with like a Mike Green, for example. But as of right now, they still have Trey Hendrickson. So I'm going to go Malachi Starks because I think that just makes a lot of sense for the Bengals personally. So I'm going Malachi Starks. Seattle Seahawks, another team that I think could make sense for Malachi Starks, but he's off the board, obviously. So Seattle Seahawks have done a ton, as we know, a ton since my last podcast. I mean, episode. You know, they traded Geno, they traded DK Metcalf, They released Tyler Lockett, released Draymond Jones, released Roy Robertson Harris, released George Fant. They signed Sam Darnold, which is a big one. 3 years, $100.5 million. They signed a tackle in Josh Jones, only a 1-year deal. And they re-signed a linebacker in Ernest Jones and defensive tackle in Jarran Reed. So where did they go here? I think if Ted McMillan was still available, that could be an obvious choice. And I guess in a way, Matthew Golden could still make a lot of sense. I think that edge rusher could make sense with them releasing Draymond Jones, like a Mike Green. I think offensive line is 100% something they need to look at. And this is somebody that I've had go to the Seahawks quite a bit. And I think I'm going to do it here, and that's a guy like Josh Simmons. I think Josh Simmons could make a ton of sense to get picked by the Seattle Seahawks. They need a tackle, especially since they released George Fant. So I'm going to go Josh Simmons to the Seattle Seahawks. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've done pretty well in free agency, mainly because they re-signed Chris Godwin. But they re-signed Chris Godwin, so that takes out wide receiver for them because they have Godwin, Evans, and McMillan. They also signed Hassan Reddick, so that to me takes out edge for the first round because they also re-signed another edge rusher in Anthony Nelson. They re-signed Levante David. To me, this screams linebacker, so Jahad Campbell, or corner, Jahdae Barron. It screams one of the two. And for me, I think I am going to go Jahdae Barron. Because you do need a linebacker because Levante David is old. But I feel like right now you need a corner more. So I'm going to go Jahdae Barron for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Denver Broncos. They have done quite a bit as well, I think. Actually, I take that back. Although, I will say, the Broncos did sign one of my favorite players in the league in Talanoa Hufanga, safety from the 49ers. They signed him. They also signed Dre Greenlaw, linebacker, also from the 49ers. So where do they go? Do they go running back with Amari Hampton? I've seen that quite a bit. Because I've seen a lot of people believe that Amari Hampton will be in the first round as well. Or do they go tight end? Colston Loveland is right there on the board. They haven't signed a tight end yet, even though they had Evan Ingram in their building pretty much day one. And because they haven't signed Evan Ingram yet, I'm going to go Colston Loveland here. And if they do sign Evan Ingram, I would probably go I was going to say Amari Hampton, but Matthew Golden is just sitting there. I'd probably go Matthew Golden, either him or Amari Hampton. But as of right now, we'll go Colston Loveland. My Pittsburgh Steelers, huh? Where do we go? So obviously, we're not picking wide receiver in the first round. We got George Pickens and DK Metcalf. We also, this isn't official because the Eagles haven't released him yet, but it looks like we're going to be getting Darius Slay. So we probably aren't going to go corner in the first round either. We signed a tight end in Donald Parham Jr. Meh. We also signed a linebacker in Malik Harrison. Meh. So that means we won't go linebacker. Obviously, we won't go tight end. Oh, boy. So, in my eyes, as a Steeler fan, especially because we released Larry Ogunjobi, I think we're going to go interior defensive line, defensive tackle, basically. And this is what I just think the Steelers are going to do at this point. This is what I'm becoming very confident is going to be the selection. I think it's Walter Nolan, to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's just how I feel about it. And I wouldn't mind that. He's a good player. And it fits a need. We need a young guy there because Cameron Hayward's not getting any younger. So, the Chargers. So, do they go running back when they just signed Najee Harris? I don't think so. Even though they released Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins is no longer on this team, obviously. They did sign Dante Jackson, a corner, so they won't go there. They re-signed Khalil Mack at edge, so I don't think they'll go there. Although I guess they could because Mike Green is just sitting there. In my opinion, I think they need to go wide receiver. They missed out on the DK Metcalf sweepstakes. They kind of haven't done much when it comes to wide receiver stuff this offseason. So I feel like this could be a Matthew Golden spot for the Los Angeles Chargers, and that's what I'm going to go. The Green Bay Packers. They're probably a team I would have taken Matthew Golden if I didn't just take him because they were heavily involved, I think, with the DK Metcalf sweepstakes. So they signed Aaron Banks, a guard. They signed Nate Hobbs, a corner. Two good signings for them. So where do they go? Probably not. Although they are losing Zaire Alexander, I think, right? So, but there's not really a corner I like here. I mean, Savon Ravel Jr., Maxwell Hairston. I just don't. I think this is too high. Quite simply, they could go edge. Everyone could go edge. Could go wide receiver. It'd probably be Emeka Egbuka. I just don't know if Emeka Egbuka is what you need. That's just my honest opinion. Interior defensive line. They could go Derek Harmon. But I think I'm going to go Mike Green. I think the Packers are fine taking a guy with personality issues. They have a solid culture. They need an edge rusher. So let's go Mike Green. It's the best one available. The Minnesota Vikings. I have loved making this pick to the Minnesota Vikings. I'm sorry if you heard my laptop just make a noise right there. I love making this pick to the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm going to do it here as well. I think, yeah. And that's Nick Emenwari. I like him here to the Vikings. They're losing Harrison Smith. They could use a versatile hybrid type of safety. And so I will go Nick Emenwari to the Vikings. The Texans, man, the Texans have done a ton of weird stuff. So I don't think they go wide receiver because they have Nico Collins. They traded for Christian Kirk. You still have Tank Dell. So I don't think you go wide receiver. I'm just kind of looking what could be the possibilities. You traded for a safety in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You traded away 2 offensive linemen and Laramie Tunzel, who was your best offensive lineman, and Kenyon Green, who sucks. You released Shaq Mason, a guard. You did sign Laken Tomlinson, so woo. You signed an edge rusher. You signed Sheldon Rankins, Mario Edwards Jr. You, for some reason, signed Braxton Berrios. You signed another wide receiver, Justin Watson. You've been busy. I almost feel like it has to be interior offensive line. So I'm going to go Tyler Booker to the Houston Texans. That makes sense to me. Although I don't think Tyler Booker's as good as people think, but I think he's for sure going first round at this point. The Los Angeles Rams, the new home of Devontae Adams. So obviously they're not going to go receiver. I don't think. With Puka, Devontae, you'll be fine. And then obviously Cooper Kupp won't be on this team anymore. Could they go tackle? They re-signed Alaric Jackson. Obviously, they restructured Stafford. They re-signed Tutu Atwell, re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo. They signed Puna Ford, interior defensive line, and they traded away guard Jonah Jackson. So they could go offensive line. They for sure could go offensive line or offensive tackle, which would be either Josh Connerly Jr. or Gray Zabel, probably. Tight end, no, it's way too early for probably Mason Taylor next. I think it's too early for that, though. And they won't go quarterback. Which, honestly, I totally forgot about this. I think Jackson Dart is going to go in the first round, but none of these teams after this need quarterback. So I'm kind of regretting not adding him in somewhere, but we'll just pretend that never happened. Anywho, I don't think they go edge. I don't think they go linebacker. I just don't think they're going to go wide receiver. Do they go interior defensive line? No, they got Puna Ford. I mean, he's not fantastic, but running back, no. You know what? I think I'm going to go Josh Connerly Jr., offensive tackle out of Oregon. I just think that's the pick. Because here's the thing, I picked him for the Ravens a lot, and they're just one pick after, so why not have the Rams pick him? The Ravens, I haven't heard much about the Ravens. What have they done? Because they've only done two things. They re-signed Patrick Ricard, that was today, and they re-signed Ronnie Stanley, which that's a good move for them. So that means they won't go tackle, which means it's good that I don't pick Josh Connerly Jr. here. That works out. And so I think they go edge or interior offensive line. So probably like Michael Williams, Donovan Izaraku, or like a Gray Zabel. There's no one at safety. This is too early for Xavier Watts. Corner, I think it's too early for Savon Revel Jr. How do you say his name? Wide receiver, probably not. I'm going to go Gray Zabel, interior offensive lineman. For the Lions, where do we go with the Lions? Lions, I don't think have done much either. Yeah, they signed corner DJ Reed, so we're not going corner. They re-signed their tackle Dan Skipper, re-signed linebacker Derek Barnes, re-signed edge Marcus Davenport, and released Zadarius Smith. So I don't think they go interior offensive line. There's no one I like there right now. I don't think they go tackle either. So I think Derek Harmon could be an option here, or like a Michael Williams. But which one do we go with? Or like a Landon Jackson, maybe. But I think I'm going to go Derek Harmon to the Lions. The Commanders, it's an edge rusher, I'm pretty sure. 100%. Where are you, Commanders? So they have done quite a bit. So they traded for Laramie Tunzel. Obviously, that takes tackle off. Traded for Deebo Samuel, so I'd say not wide receiver. They signed interior defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw. They released Jonathan Allen. They re-signed Zach Ertz, re-signed Bobby Wagner. They signed safety Will Harris. Okay. So to me, this is edge with a bullet. It's just a matter of, is it Michael Williams? I think it would be between Michael Williams or Landon Jackson. I think I've heard they like Landon Jackson quite a bit. And I've heard Landon Jackson has been rising up boards while Michael Williams has been falling. So, you know what? My bald brethren, Landon Jackson, will go with Landon Jackson. The Bills. The Buffalo Bills. Let's see. So I know they re-signed Khalil Shakir. They extended Khalil Shakir. My apologies. Extended Josh Allen, extended Greg Rousseau, extended Terrell Bernard. They signed Joshua Palmer, so I would say not wide receiver. They signed Michael Holt, however you say his name, who's an edge rusher. So they won't go safety. Defensive tackle is possible with like a Darius Alexander out of Toledo. I think corner could be a possibility. Maxwell Hairston, Savone Ravel, Benjamin Morrison. Wide receiver could be possible, especially with Luther Burden and Emeka Egbuka still sitting right there. But they signed Joshua Palmer. They did do that. They did. It won't be a linebacker because they extended Terrell Bernard. Let's see. Where do we go? You know what? Let's go Darius Alexander out of Toledo. That's a fun pick, so we'll go with him. The Chiefs. What have the Chiefs done? I know they signed Jalen Moore. Yeah, tackle Jalen Moore for 2 years, $30 million. They re-signed Nick Bolton, which was huge for them. They traded away Joe Thuney. They signed Christian Fulton today. That was this morning. They re-signed Marquise Brown. Oh, man. Man, oh, man. They could go Amari and Hampton, low-key. They could. I'm just saying. They could go Amari and Hampton. I think they could go interior of that offensive line with like a Donovan Jackson. I think that's a possibility. I don't think they go defensive tackle. They won't go edge. No. Why? I keep looking at these wide receivers, Luther Bird and Emeka. I think Emeka Egbuka goes in the first round, and I think that could be a fun one with the Chiefs, Emeka Egbuka. I think it could be. Is there anyone I would want to take over? No. So I'm going to go with Emeka. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Emeka Egbuka. Actually, no, I'm going to stick to it. We're going to Emeka Egbuka to the Chiefs. That's fun. And the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, so let's talk about the Eagles, shall we? So they obviously re-signed Zach Bond, so this will not be a linebacker. It won't be Jahad Campbell, although it could be, but they extended Saquon, so not running back. They released Darius Slay, released James Bradbury, which we figured was going to happen. They traded away Kenny Pickett, traded away C.J. Gardner-Johnson, which the trading away C.J. Gardner-Johnson was interesting. There's not a safety here that I would take for them. Xavier Watts, it's way too early. Jahad Campbell would be a fun one, I think, for that team. Because even though you re-signed Zach Bond, you still need depth because Nakobe Dean is constantly injured. And I think edge could be somewhere they could go because obviously they lost Josh Sweat, even though they still have Bryce Huff, who was pretty mid last year, and Nolan Smith, who's still very young. And there is a Georgia player who plays edge who is sitting right here for the taking for the Eagles. Although I will say it kind of makes my skin crawl that I don't have Amarian Hampton, Jackson Dart, or Jahad Campbell going in the first round. That feels wrong. I won't lie to you. But you know what? We're still pretty far. We're still over a month away from the draft. So calm down. Okay? So I'm going to go Mykel Williams, Georgia player, edge rusher, to the Philadelphia Eagles. And this has been your first round mock draft. Let me look at my phone, make sure. Are there any other free agency signings that have happened? Let's see. So the Falcons signed Leonard Floyd. Okay. He was released today from the Niners. Let's see. Anyone else? Cowboys are signing edge rusher Peyton Turner. Okay, that means nothing. Let's see. Anyone else? Saints wide receiver Dante Pettis. That means nothing. Yeah, so not really anything of note. It looks like. Still going through, making sure. Yeah, it doesn't look like anything of note. So the only really thing of note was Leonard Floyd. But, it's whatever. All right. So this has been your one round mock draft on the 50th episode of the Be Great podcast. How about we have 50 more? 50 more. Luckily, I'll be here hopefully for episode 100. Next week, I honestly have no idea what we're going to be talking about next week. It's going to be a complete surprise to you and me. But maybe I'll do like top 10 college football head coaches. I saw that list on Twitter the other day. So maybe we'll do that. But, anyways, I hope everyone enjoys themselves. I'm recording this on a Tuesday, but this will not be uploaded till the following day on Wednesday, which is the day that you might be hearing it. I don't know. Maybe you're not listening to it on a Wednesday. Who cares? But I hope everyone has a tremendous day. It's a beautiful day where I am outside. Go out, enjoy the sun, even though I won't. And yeah, have a great day.